Hi guys, welcome to Flory Models. Here we are on Wednesday morning. Thank you so much for all the questions and the feedback on yesterday's thing. I know it was a bit technical, not really modelling related for the Q&A, but loads of you are sort of doing more things with cameras and YouTube and all those different bits and pieces. So I thought I'd answer some of the questions that have popped up since then, plus some of the normal questions as we go right the way through. First of all though, a lot of you are still asking about obviously the yearly subscriptions, so flicking over to that and the new price banding and all the different bits and pieces of questions. Trying to keep it as simple as possible. What's happened is the system is turned off. The one that kicks you out automatically and sort of lets you in automatically and does all the things is actually disabled completely. So we are doing it all manually. Now the point to this is so we can keep track of everything, and we actually have a paper record of everything as well as a digital. So it's taking a little bit longer, but what we don't want to lose is anybody during the transition period. So the whole point is that if your account has been cancelled for whatever reason, card issues, all the usual bits and pieces, don't worry about it because you're not going to get kicked out. We will come in contact with you, and obviously what we're hoping is to have like 4 weeks of transferring everybody over. As you know, we've got thousands of members and hundreds of you have wanted to sort of, you know, transfer straight away. So what we're trying to do is do it in blocks, and because we're doing it manually, it's taking quite a bit of time, because as well as day-to-day running of everything, we got to do this as well. So this morning, for instance, I've sat down and done about 20 this morning. I know Mel's working on them today as well. So we can probably do around about 50, maybe 100 tops every day. But as you can imagine, that's still going to take us couple of months to go through everyone, and obviously not everybody wants to transfer either. So if you don't panic about it. It's no problem. You're not on any different listing. There's no separate items. You're just in one giant pile still. It's just that obviously for the billing cycles and stuff like that, we have to cancel the old one at the same time, and that's why everything's disabled, because obviously if we cancelled your subscription, the site will go, well, you've not paid now, and it puts you on a different system and you get that payment error thing. So at the moment it's all been disabled, and then that way I'm manually cancelling your subscription with PayPal, putting the new one in, putting the data across and everything else. It might seem long-winded, and I'm sure there's a technical way of doing it, but this is what I call the foolproof way of doing it and everything. So hopefully over the next month we'll get most of you transferred over. But again, if you don't want to transfer, there is no pressure to it. Just carry on as you are, and we'll make our way through. Anyway, as I said, loads of questions. First of all, this camera here is it's a Canon, and it is the PowerShot G7X. It's a great camera. To be honest, I bought the 2 as well. There's a second version of this one, and it was no different to this one. So I must admit, I took the other one back because I wasn't going to warrant paying the extra sort of 500 quid for the new version when there was nothing different between this one. The only thing I'm doing differently today, and I can see it up there, hopefully it's clear, is that this thing jumps with the focus. It finds it really hard because what it's always trying to do is focus on your face. So as I turn away, it's like, where have you gone? And it's, you know. So anyway, I'm trying this on manual, and as you know, I am no means a technical whiz. How all this works, it's like fairies going through cables and all of that to me. I haven't got a clue. It's just a miracle it works. And as I say, I'm sort of self-taught all of this over the years. So mine isn't from a skilled technical level of knowing how cameras work. Mine is purely trial and error. So over the years of doing this, and I say I've been filming now for probably the last 16 years of trying to do videos and photographing and stuff like that, purely for modelling related, and then with the site. And now hopefully we're to a level where I've almost got the hang of it. But technology, to be honest, is getting easier and easier and easier. And that's what I was saying yesterday, and a couple of you have messaged me about different cameras and stuff. And like I've said to all of you, I wouldn't worry about the camera. A modern camera will cope with anything. Forget this macro lens business. Trust me, I went through that. What was it, last year before, and I bought quite an expensive for my big camera, a macro lens for it. It's now gathering dust. I've never used it because that level of detail isn't required. It's not like you're, you know, filming a bee hovering from like 1 millimeter away in slow mode. That's when you need a macro lens. Technically, for what we do, it's more, you're going to be always going to be technically, I don't know, 10 to 15 centimeters away close. But a good camera these days, you zoom in, and because you zoom in, you don't get the fisheye look. I know a lot of people ask me about for doing the close-up works and everything else like that. My camera, don't forget, is distance-wise 2 meters away, but it's zoomed in. So what happens is, instead of your camera being right on you, so you guys who have your camera and it's right in front of you, and you put it on a rig, so it's, and you're doing this, trouble is you get that sort of fisheye look with it. I would say bring your camera further back and zoom into it, and you'll be great. And then the great thing you can do with that in editing, you can zoom a bit with modern, you know, filming techniques and stuff like that. Not so much 4K, because 4K is what I call a raw image, but if you're using 1080 at 60, you can zoom probably halfway in. No one will notice you've digitally zoomed in editing, so you can actually move your camera around to the location you want and things like that. So. But this camera is a great camera, don't get me wrong. The shortfall for it is that you can't live stream with it. It won't work like a webcam like all the other cameras do, because the direct feed out of this, there is a bypass, but it's long-winded and complicated. My system doesn't like it, but it won't do it. But for doing filming like this, and when we take it to museums, and when I'm doing sort of run and gun type stuff, I just want the camera and I take you out and about. So this is the camera I'm doing it, and you've seen it's a tiny little thing, and it works absolutely phenomenally well. Really, really good. It's just for long focal lenses and stuff like that, it's not the best in the world, especially fast moving objects as well. The autofocus, pretty rubbish, it doesn't keep up, whereas obviously the big cameras have no problem with that at all. They'll lock onto something and you don't get the sort of pulsing and all those things. But as you say, it's one of those things with me, it's trial and error. I know there's probably guys out there who are in the film industry, videographers and stuff like that, who know all the settings and buttons. Mine are locked off. I have one of these little silver things with a cross in it, like a tent, and you put it in front, lock it all to that does the white balance and everything. I do that every morning before I start filming, and that's it. That's all I actually do, you know. It's as simple as that. A few questions that have come up. I'll do the ones on here, then we'll do the other ones. So anyway, a couple of you saying cool stuff, great stuff, a couple of people wanting to look at their channels, and Jose has been watching us since I did the P40. Now the P40 Warhawk, crikey, yes, that's a while ago. I don't know actually if I can quickly grab it up here. The P40 Warhawk was a very long time ago. I don't know, that's the old SD form. This is, if you don't know our system, this is all the video builds right the way through, and down the bottom here we've got the early ones. Now not all of these are available. Well, they're all the ones you can see are. There you go, look, you can see how tiny these are. Wow. Pro modeler back in the day, you see. And that's working on the Warhawk.
Right up to it. We don't want to touch, because if we touch, the capillary action.
And that was doing it with one camera. And it was this horrible, it was like a DVD, mini DVD R that went in it, and it used to go rah, 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 and it drove me mad. So anyway, that's that one. So yes, that was a good old one there. So he's saying continued success for the future, many years to come. Thank you very much indeed. Martin, impressive setup. What camera selector? I take it you mean my multiple one for doing all the camera ones. To be honest, I don't know. It's just a cheap one. It's an HDMI switcher box, but does come with one of these. I don't know if that helps. It says it's a YS199 on this for the remote for it. To be honest, I have had, and I'll probably got them in here. This is my desk drawer. Yeah, here they are. Multiple other ones, to be honest, HDMI switcher ones, and they are crap. So the only thing I would recommend is spend 50 quid on one if you're going to use it all the time, because the ones that I've bought for 20 quid and that, they last about a month and then pack up. I think what it is, it's having, because don't forget HDMI has its own power source as well as they're going through them. I think it just, the fluctuations between switching cameras and switching on and off burns them out, because as I said, I went through the space in about 6 months of about 6 of them. They lasted about a month. Then I must admit I went out and bought a proper one which is mains powered as well, and I've had no problem ever since, and we've had that one now for over a year. But all the cheap little ones, and then all of a sudden you're watching it and it switches camera on its own and you're like, I haven't pressed it. Or the remotes give up as well, which is another crap idea, where this one has got a proper remote with a proper battery in it, and we don't have a problem, but you watch now, it will give up. A decent condenser mic. Yeah, I've got one, but the thing is, the trouble with condenser mics, they're great, but they're too good in some ways, because what happens is they pick up all the sound in the room. So, and as some of you know, my computer, when it's starting to work, it's got lots of fans and it gets quite noisy. The other problem you have as well is that when you're working, you probably don't want to hear a sander giving it beans all the time of actually tearing through. You know, you can get the general sound of it, but you don't want to hear it. Airbrushing is another one especially. You don't want to hear an airbrush blasting away. Now if you're using a condenser mic that's picking up all those areas, you're going to hear it. If you use a good quality shotgun mic, you can then have it focused on me. And to be honest, I have mine actually aimed always at basically my neck. That way you don't hear the sounding, and then I'm not overpowering everything as well. So you get a little bit of all the sounds as well. I know lots of people have said about it. I had one guy message me through the email system. He was saying about lapel mics. Everyone says about lapel mics. Two things wrong with lapel mics. Firstly, you tend to have them down here. You tend to be a modeler, you're hunched over a bit. So it's not like you're upright and you're speaking, okay? Because you're a modeler and you're over, it tends to sort of, you know, deaden the sound a little bit. It's probably not the best to have it like that type of system. The other problem as well is that because they're cabled, you know, you get up to answer the phone, you drop apart, and you're always pulling on cables, and that is the worst part. When we used to do live stuff and have the ear things, you're forever pulling them out your ear and everything else. Absolutely drives you mad. And I know you can get wireless ones, but then you've got the thing about it's always got to be on charge, and you're carrying around a battery pack and all the rest of it. Again, I try and keep my setup as simple as possible, rather than actually, you know, trying to have cables and everything. It's bad enough the amount of cables we've got. You saw in yesterday's video going around here, we've got miles of cable going around to do all this. Right, okay, so what else have we got? Cliffs of Dover is much better than DCS. Yeah, but I can't fly a A10 in Cliffs of Dover, can I? That's your answer to that one. I must admit, I do fly, and I do fly the Mustang in DCS, and I fly the Spitfire in DCS as well. And I do like my Second World War, but my heart, if you're honest, is flying the A10. I love flying the A10, and that's what I do. So obviously that's all very well saying about Cliffs of Dover is better, but not for flying the A10. And then he goes on to say, nice setup. Okay, so this is back to where we was talking about the special hobby Tempest. He was saying a point of order, no one minds flash, etc. on a reasonably priced kit. It's when you're shelling out for Tamiya money, and you're getting poor fit and flash that you'll get the complaints. Generally speaking, with kits nowadays, you get for what you pay for, unless it's Kitty Hawk. Everyone's having a dig at Kitty Hawk. Nice review, great subject. Looking forward to building mine. Yeah, again, it is that thing. You know, you think from that point of view, the kit is what, 40 quid for that Tempest. You can, I think the one with all the goodies in it is around about 75. So you're still getting up in there, you know, in the range. All right, it's not 150 quid Tamiya kit, but you know, they are getting quite expensive on that part. But again, I totally agree, you know, but the point I've been making over that, and again, I'm not going to go on a rant, is that anybody with basic modelling skills can tackle all the problems, even that you get on Kitty Hawk kit. It's not in the realms of, I think that everyone's just getting so used to that fantastic quality and the drop togetherness, almost the sort of plug and play type attitude with modelling, that people are forgetting that from my point of view as a 70s child, growing up in the 70s, it was all about the struggles of crap of putting these things together, and it never bothered me. And now it's almost like that thing that because we're in that sort of digital era of CAD and LADAR and all of that stuff, that kits should just fall together. And I'm just saying, in some ways it's taking away that sort of nostalgia of modelling, of it being a problem. And I'll show you in a minute. Obviously I'm working on the Skyhawk, and the Skyhawk's not perfect. It's a 1990s kit. It's beautiful. It was light years ahead of its time and still is a beautiful kit. Here we are almost 20 years down the line, but it still has little niggly problems that you have to take care of and just have a play with and a fit and everything else like that. And it's just that from my point of view, I like the challenge, you know, and that's it. Working on the A10, it was that thing of like, yeah, it's not perfect, but boy, I've looked back on it and it's still sat here now. I've got the heart to move it yet. And it's one of those things where I just love working with it. Don't get me wrong, I love Bandai, and I put Bandai together, and let's face it, you need no skill whatsoever to put a Bandai kit together. Painting and weathering, obviously you do, but putting together, anybody can do that. That's a doddle. Right, Quantum, 5-star, thank you. I'll give you a $5 to say decal on your next kit review. It's not, it's a decal. It's like aluminum. Who says aluminum? It's aluminium. Vehicle, it's a vehicle. I think it's just a language thing. Again, it's like Tamiya and Tamiya. To me, growing up in the 70s and 80s and 90s, it was always Tamiya. Everybody describes it as Tamiya, and when you read their book, it's like Tamiya. But now it's been changed over to Tamiya, and I think it's because it's become, I'd say you guys who obviously are, but Americanized. And you take your language, I'm not going to go down the thing about it's English, but you're going to take the language and you sort of, you know, put your twist on it, which is nothing wrong with that. Let's face it, the Australians have been doing it for years. Anyway, we're on about short run kits, the high-tech ones. That's right, thank you Bob, that was very true. I must admit, I've gone off and done a little bit of homework on it now. It's that thing, and I know a lot of people say about it, I don't like to open a box and have a look into it until I review it, and I don't like to read everybody else's reviews because otherwise I'm just a sheep and there's no point in doing a review. As far as I'm concerned, if you're doing a review, you should review it on your own merits, and when I do a review and I'm looking at a kit in a box, that's all I'm doing. I'm not looking about building it, I'm not looking about finishing it, I'm just looking at the parts and how it's going to look like it's going to go together. Look, at hindsight, I've gone off now and had a look, and obviously they do the high-tech versions of those kits, which have got all the goodies in, and boy, have they got some very nice goodies. But like a lot of you have said as well, you can actually go out and buy all the parts separate to add to it, so you can cherry pick the ones you want to do and put those through as well. So I do like the idea of it. It is very nice. I must admit though, the one with the sort of radial engine, the later Tempest with that big one, it's like a Sea Fury, that looks nice, I must admit. So yeah. What else have we got? Andrew was saying, Phil, I know what you mean, a model that you've been involved with and moved on to the completed shelf. I've wrestled with mine old Airfix just to see if I could make a presentable model out of them. It's like waving your kits onto college, university. Glad the mission is complete. But what do you do next? Well, this is it. I'm straight on with the next one, which I'll show you in a moment, which my camera's just bleeped at me, which means it's 15 minutes in already. And right, Sergeant said, I'm a crew chief. Sorry, I'm a career A10 crew chief. Hell yeah. You get my vote straight away. I could go around on what's wrong with your pig, but honestly, without major surgery, you can't fix it. Most of them, right? You know, again, the trouble I have is obviously you guys are seeing a tiny little glimpse who aren't members of the build. The build itself is now going to be around about 20 parts. It's about 10.5 hours, 11 hours of video, and I explain all the things that are wrong with it and everything else like that. So what you're seeing is just a tiny little glimpse, and I talk about the faults this thing has got on it and everything else like that. But at the end of the day, I'm just trying to take a kit with doing the least amount of work possible for it and bringing it up to speed. So yeah, I can go right the way over it as well. As I say, the A10 is my favourite aircraft of all time. I love it to death. As I say, I fly it online in SimWorld or DCS. I know the technical side of it quite well as well. For some stupid reason, I read all the manuals. Trust me, I've got them all. So from that point of view, but it's a model kit, and at the end of the day, it's a very old model kit, so not a very accurate model kit. And obviously, I was just trying to do an A10 Plus in the style of, but as we all know, it's got lumps, bumps, and everything that's missing over it. I know the aerials are technically wrong, a lot of the placements, things like that, but it is what it is. At the end of the day, it looks like an A10, and until somebody brings out a nice one that doesn't need massive amounts of surgery, we're not going to do it. I can hope one day somebody will jump on. Can't imagine Tammy ever doing it, but I'm hoping someone perhaps like, you know, Trumpeter will come up with a really nice A10C and we can go down the actual the things of it. So but yeah, but thank you for that. Right, see a review of Hobbycraft Sea Fury in 30 seconds. I tell you what, keep me to that, because you will see one, because I'm desperate to get my hands on that kit. Nice to see the Tempest do. Right, okay, so there we go. That'll do in there for the moment. Actually, on the main site for asking the Phil's Q&As, I'll just do these before we move on. Try and keep them all in one thread, guys. Don't chuck them all over the place, otherwise I'll forget where they actually are. Rick was saying, he's going through the clear coat video. It's quite old. Could you do an update on clears, i.e. Owlclad, Aqua Clear, Super Hobby Clear, all the different clear coats, EK Clear? I did sort of do a roughly updated one. The trouble that you have is that obviously I do a full-on review and an on-test, and it takes quite a while and a few days to set up and all things like that. And then within a year it's out of date. And you know, technically, do I keep going back every year and updating? And obviously it just takes time away. But yeah, it is one of those things. Things do move on. It's like primers, as you know, I go through primers like once a month it seems, and different ways of doing it. But generally it's just like an upgrade. For a clear coat for me, I am loving Pledge Floor Care. Not clear, it's called Care. It's beautiful stuff. It's crystal clear. I do all my canopies in it now. My gloss work, you can hand paint it and everything. It is thinner than most everybody else's. Clearest thing I've got to it, or closest I should say, is the Goozy stuff. But this stuff is hard as nails. Goozy stuff, you can scratch it. This stuff will not scratch. So really good with that one. But yeah, I will sort out doing updated videos at some point. Another suggestion for tutorials, how about showing one about removing ejector pins, especially in hard places that sanders won't go to? Yeah, that's a good one, Simon. I tell you what, I will do something like that. Rick seconded that one as well. And then Ant saying, hey Phil, as always, thanks for taking the time to answer the questions. How do you produce or fabricate all those different decals for your commission builds? Depends on what it is. 9 times out of 10 you can get aftermarket ones, so I just take the easy route and I'll buy aftermarket ones. If I can't find it aftermarket, then I will look at getting a custom one done. Depending on the decal itself, sometimes you can resize a previous scale and then template it and do it that way. New way of doing it, Ron. I just speak to Ron now, and Ron can whip me one up in CAD, would be quite handy. Or finding somebody who can do the printed off ones and stuff like that. Or the old-fashioned way is print it. You know, you buy the actual decal paper. The trouble that you have is if you've got a white decal, because obviously if you need to print white, you need a specialist printer that can print white ink. Obviously normal printers don't do that, so you're going to need to find something that actually does those types of jobs. But you can buy white decal paper and then you just laminate it and layer it up. So obviously the white is the first colour down, then all your colours go after it, seal it, cut it out, put them on. They're never going to be as beautiful as a Cartograph silkscreen painted decal, but you know, it is one of those things that sometimes you can cheat and you can just literally get away with various things by using other markings and stuff like that to do them. But if it's like a full colour cagbird or something else like that, then you've got your work cut out. So it just depends on the type that it actually is. But I take it you've been through my collection, as you say, of my F18s and stuff like that. Probably only 5% are custom markings on them. The rest of them are shop bought ones that have just gone on because over the years people have come out with them. But the other thing you can do is you can take ones for like F14s and they go onto F18s where the units change, or F4s and then they put those markings onto something like an F18. You can actually take the original marking and then adjust it and paint the big bits, and then the detail bits you can take things off. So I've done like that in the past as well. But generally it just depends on what type of marking it is. So yeah, and we're just trying to whip through this because I'm acutely aware we're taking forever on these logs. Are supposed to be 10 minutes long and now they're turning into half-hour shows again. Right, Phil, how do you replicate the white seals on the inner canopies of frames? The Buccaneer is a perfect example. Do you remask the canopy and spray the area? Depending on what it is, but as we did on the A10, camera's on normal mode now, so I don't know how I'm going to show you. I'll show you in a minute because I don't want to move it now. In the, might be even today's part from the A10, if it's not, it's going to be the next part. You'll see I use extremely thin, and I think it's 0.2 millimeter Tamiya tape type thing. It's not Tamiya tape, it's by Azure or whoever it is, but you can actually put that round. What you can do is pre-paint it. Okay, so you can actually paint it white first, put it down on your board, paint it white by hand or spray it, take it off or cut it into the sections and then put it on with it all the way round. Once it's been done like that, you can actually dip the entire thing into clear coat. That will then seal it as well and it will hold it in place. So in years to come, it's not going to peel off. That's how you do it. The other option, of course, is to mask it. So actually what you're going to physically do is put down the inner mask first, so that sits on there, okay, and then you're actually going to then come in and spray the white bit all the way round, again using very thin tape as your mask, peel that off, spray that on, then take all the other masks off, just depending which way you do it. Personally, again, I always take the easiest option. I tend to use very, very thin tape like we did on the A10 for the actual gasket seal that actually goes around the glass on the front of the A10 there, that has them, and I've done it on that one and it worked an absolute treat, but I tend to do it with all those ones that have it. The Russian stuff, to be honest, I've got some great reference photos and it looks like somebody put it in putty with a thumb and just done this, and it's awful and it looks horrible all the way through. That'd be the more difficult one to replicate, a really bad one, because obviously if you're using tape it's a straight line, it's no problem, but if you want it to look nasty, then you know, you're going to need a slightly ding, I don't know, PVA glue or something, and stick it down with that and do it that way. And Simon says, Phil, watching the Revel 112 Shelby GT500, you mentioned that you're a petrol head, was, and that you love your American muscle cars, yet I don't seem to see you build many cars. Do you have any plans to build any in the next few months? Not in the next few months, if I'm honest. We did the truck, we did the big, was it 350? Truck up there, we did that one, and we tried a different pearlescent paint job and all the rest of it. Again, if I was doing it now, I'd do it completely different, and everything else. But I haven't got any plans to do any vehicles at the moment, but never say never, because again, with my plan for this year, I've pretty much got it laid out exactly what I want to be building, what I want to be doing. But in amongst it all, a bit like the Skyhawk, I intend to put some quick builds in, and to be honest, cars are pretty much a quick build. I can knock those out quite quickly in a couple of weeks. So yeah, stay tuned, you never know, I might do something. I would like to do that. I don't know about doing the huge big stuff, 112 scale stuff, because again, it's space and putting it somewhere to put it, but something a little bit smaller. And to be honest, I was actually given for my birthday last week a Ferrari F50 over there. Yeah, I do have vehicles in my stash. Right, okay, so Wayne is saying, Phil, question for you. I'm wondering if the MRP suggestion for US Air Force interiors, I can, because I used it yesterday. I'll show you in a minute. Also, if you're using polishing compound instead of dipping canopies, will you have any problems masking and painting the canopy afterwards? If you're polishing it, you'll have no problem whatsoever because it's just plastic. So the only trouble is if you dip your canopy, then you try and do things with it, i.e. polish it, it's never going to work. Okay, so you can do like I did for the A10. I think you're going to see it in today's part actually, where I do all the work on it. It's all painted, it's finished, it's polished and everything. Then I dipped it as the final thing, and literally is the final part of working with it. It's the last thing you're going to do. When adding PE to the canopy, when do you usually do them? Last. It's the very last job that I actually did to mine. Everything's completely finished, then I do it. The reason for doing it last is, let's face it, you're going to knock it off. And to be honest, mine is a hybrid because I use the framework from Edard set right the way around the outside of it because it's got good bulky frames that the A10 has, but it didn't have the mirrors. So the mirrors from the actual set is different because it's, I don't know, steel or whatever it is. It's definitely not photo etch. And then what they actually did is I cut them off and then PVA glued them in. But again, they're very fragile, so you have to be a bit careful how you put them in and everything else. So definitely do everything like that as the last ever job because they're the ones that are going to get knocked. And like my canopy is a loose fit, like I explained in the video, because it's going to go to shows and things. So I can take the canopy off because it's going to be the one thing that's going to take the biggest hit. And also with the canopy off, I can put it onto its roof to protect all the gear and all the hangy bits for when it's travelling. He says, PS, love the A10. Also great to see the additional videos from Stephen Hans. Every time I watch one of your videos, I'm just gobsmacked. Thank you very much, no problem at all. And that was it, because then Ian was talking about he's having trouble with the A10 last week with the video not playing in 1080. What happens is if you're watching on a tablet or on your phone, it does it in mobile mode. You can override it, you can actually go in the settings and boost it apparently and everything else like that, but if you're doing it normally, that isn't going to work. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change the camera battery because it's just about to go, and I'll show you where we're to. Okay, so here we go, handy cam. Hopefully we're back onto manual. So first up, we were just talking about the gasket around the front of an A10. Come on camera, come on, come on, come on. Is it still in manual? Hold on, let me try and do it. There we go. Right, okay, so you might be able to see on the front of my A10 here, if I catch it in the right light, come on, there you go. You can see the gasket around the front. That is the tiniest little tape. It's the very thin stuff. It's Azus who make it or something else like that. It's the thinnest one they do. It's tiny, but it does a great little gasket job on there, literally just like that, okay? So really handy on that one. So, round on the other side. Here we are. So as you can see, we've really pushed on with this guy. It's coming together really well, no problems at all. Usual suspects, obviously the intakes. If you, when you know, obviously you guys are going to watch a video anyway, we'll get this up to you at the end of the week. Take the pins out, the locating pins out for the actual intakes. That makes them fit, because when they're in there they don't fit and you end up with no problems at all. The front parts, to be honest, we're going to paint these red. Where are they going? We're going to paint these red and do them as a separate, so they'll go in afterwards. This hasn't been fitted down here at the bottom, but you can see we've got the usual gaps, which this kit has always had. Tiny little slivers going to go in there. You can either do it with a bit of plastic card or a tiny bit of filler, and these, that'll take care of those. And then up here on the hump, you always have that same problem, where normally you get a tiny little gap just here at the front. Okay, to be honest, I'm using this glue, the old Plastic Magic, and it's welded it up on this one, so I'm quite happy with that. Also, you get this slight step, and what it is, this back here, the actual area at the tail here has a slight spread issue. When you put it together, you can get it perfectly seen, but then you end up with this little tiny gap. So what you need to do is just take care of that little step. So a tiny smidge of filler in there and a wipe. We're going to use your water-based filler. I'll show you about that today. We'll take care of that and get rid of it. But generally you can see the wing section isn't actually, if I get it off, isn't on here yet. It's separate because I'm going to go around and sand and blend and take care of all the things in there. And again, you'll see, yes, I did forget to put the nose weight in, so I show you about how to put the nose weight in once you've sealed it all up, because I'm a muppet. But generally you can tell just the details on this are absolutely beautiful. It goes together really, really nicely. So there we go, guys. That is about it. A couple of things to mention. Steve has done a poll that he's put up actually on the site now for his next build, because obviously he's planning on doing a full video build. God help him. He doesn't know what he's let himself in for yet. But he is going to do one, and it's going to be something really big and impressive, because we know Steve, he doesn't do things by half. So he's got a poll up on the site for that. What I'll do is, this afternoon, I'll take you over and I'll show you exactly which one he wants you to vote for. So you vote up which one you want to do. He has no preference whatsoever, so go for your life on that. And then obviously yesterday I put up part 2 of actually him working with oil paints and everything else on that, and that's on the Today page on the Flory Models site, and no doubt it'll be in the forum as well. Okay, so from that point of view, you can see exactly what he's been getting up to with those bits of work. So, sorry it's a bit long-winded this morning, but it's like question time and everything else, instead of doing it later. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to sort out a few more of you for the yearly subscriptions. We'll get those sorted out, and then hopefully I'm going to get this guy finished, get him all together, put into a situation where we can almost get him into primer and everything today. So really what we can do is, obviously Thursday and Friday, hopefully get a little bit of paint on him, and then next week he will be finished. So, till later guys, happy modelling, take care. Okay, so good morning's work. Must admit, pushed on very nicely with the Skyhawk. Again, it's one of those things. In the video, I'll show you a couple of little tips and tricks using this kit about removing some of the locating pins, and it makes it a better fit and everything else. But generally, let's face it, it's gorgeous. It's a lovely little kit to work with. So, as we can see, we have the Skyhawk all done like this. I'm hoping the manual focus is working better. So it is built, simple as that. So what I've done now is, over here we've done the fuel tanks for it. I've just started working on the seat. We just got the seat cut out. Cool. Good job that lid was on, wasn't it? So the seat is all cut out and done. I must admit, we're just about to mask up the canopy. So we got the canopy work there and everything ready to go. Again, being Hasegawa, usual thing, it doesn't come with any weapons, which is a little bit of a pain. I might have a look through some of my weapon boxes and things like that. I have got some rocket pods, I think, floating around, or we might stick a couple of snake eyes on it or something else. But generally, it's a really nice kit. It goes together fantastically well. Again, it seems strange calling it old school, because it's not an old school kit. It's actually a really nice kit. It goes together fantastic, as does 99.9% of all Hasegawa stuff, let's face it. A couple of little hiccups in their line, which we won't go into now, but there's a couple of kits which I do think they got wrong. But generally, they've got most of their sort of, 70s, and 80s aircraft all pretty much spot on. And I must admit, I'm still a massive fan of their Tomcat, even though obviously he's been overshadowed now by the Hobby Boss one and Tamiya's latest super lovely Tomcat. But yeah, still love their D-Type. It's absolutely fantastic with all the little bits and pieces that goes with it. So that is about it. You can catch up now if you want with part whatever it is, what are we, 14, 15 on the actual A10 as well. So that is with you and going to be up with you right now, so you go off and watch that one as you make your way through. Then hopefully I'll get part 1 of this will be up with you maybe Monday, hopefully be Monday. As I said, I hope to get it all completely done, ready, primed up and everything by the end of this week, and then straightforward with paintwork next week and decaling. So it will be completed by next week, and then we'll be starting on the Tiger. So we're going to make our way through with the actual Tiger build on that. So this one is literally just a little 2-week build just to get my mojo going before we make our way on the next super build. All right. So there we go. That's about it from me for today. Thank you for joining me. I hope you're enjoying these little vlogs and the various insights into what we get up to and stuff like that. End of the week, hopefully I've got some really exciting stuff turning up. fingers crossed. It's due to arrive here on Friday, but we've got loads of stuff coming in back end of the week and everything else, which I'll share with you as we make our way through. For you guys asking about reviews this week, because I had a couple of messages saying, what you got reviews this week? It's going to be the Airfix B17, because I must admit I've got that one down there for you, and maybe, I don't know which one I've got. I've got some Bandai stuff, we've got some more Airfix stuff up there. I'm just looking at it and all the way through, but generally we'll come up with some reviews and we'll get up with those next week. So there we go. Don't forget, please vote on Steve's poll in the forum for actually what he wants to build next, and he'll make his way through with that one. I know Hans will hopefully be back next week with some more great bits and pieces for you. So in the meantime, say catch up with part 10 of that one, and I'm going to carry on, and you can see how we get on with that one tomorrow in tomorrow's vlog. So till tomorrow, everybody, happy modelling. Take care.